Next up, we have a roundtable about cultured meat, cultivated meat, and all the opportunities. So we had Didier Toubia, who is one of the pioneers, one of the leaders in this sector, as part of this roundtable. Unfortunately, he couldn't join us, so he sent us a video. So I'd like to share the video with you.
Firstly, I want to express my appreciation to the teams at KM0 and F-Talks for having us taking part in this great event in Valencia. Regrettably, due to the ongoing situation in Israel as we are fighting back a significant terror attack, I was unable to travel abroad to join you in person, as the events in my home country have left my family and Aleph Farm's team members in need for my immediate presence. It's an opportunity to thank all our friends from all around the world, including from Spain, for the expression of support as we are going through a difficult time. At Aleph Farms, we do see cellular agriculture producing animal proteins and fats based on cell cultures as a new source of food from cattle. We started eating meat 2.4 million years ago, then relatively recently to drink milk and eat dairy products when we domesticated cattle 6 or 7 years ago. Now we're witnessing, and that's super exciting, we're witnessing the incorporation of a new source for cattle-based food into our diet, cells. The big difference between cells and meat and dairy is that cells do not require farming the whole animal to make high quality and nutritional animal products. For this reason, we believe that complementing sustainably raised cattle with cellular agriculture is a way to optimize the overall ecosystem for proteins with respect both to the use of natural resources. Making cells instead of raising cattle can help reducing greenhouse gases and methane drastically, especially by using renewable energies, but can also help reducing the amount of land and a loss of biodiversity associated with intensive cattle farming. Beyond that, incorporating cells as part of the as a balanced solution and as a sustainable transition and just an inclusive approach to animal farming is a way to diversify our sources of animal proteins and fats and incorporate more resilience into our food systems by decentralizing the production with shorter production cycles and shorter supply chains, but also incorporating circuit breakers and B plans in cases of crisis and better adapting to climate change and to extreme climate events. So we're very excited to be part of this event today. I'd like to wish you all to enjoy F-Talks 2023. Hope to be with you in person next year. Thanks again to KM0 and to the F-Talk organizer for creating this space for inclusive conversations. And I'm available for any questions or if you'd like to reach out to me directly. Have a good day and see you soon.
Well, we really appreciate Didier sending this video in this very difficult times. We also are missing today some friends from Israel. So we will have this roundtable with two fantastic speakers, a fantastic moderator, which you have already met. Christine Gould, the founder and CEO of Thought for Food, will be moderating this table. So please join me on stage. And of course, two other squad members, Giuseppe Scionti, CEO and founder of NOVAMEAT, and Iñigo Charola, founder of Biotech Foods. Big round of applause for them.
Amazing. I'm really excited to be moderating this panel with such interesting innovators in a very interesting space, cultured meat. I mean, we talk about agriculture, it has the word culture in it. Food is, fundamental to cultures, and here we have a majorly disruptive technology that we're going to dive into and understand its potential, some of its challenges and opportunities. But before we go into that, I would love to hear from each of you who you are, what your company does, and actually why you got into this space of cultured meat in the first place. Let's start with you, Giuseppe.
Thank you for the invitation, and I'm happy to be here and discuss a little bit about NOVAMEAT. I got into this space because I was professor in bioengineering. I worked 10 years in a field called tissue engineering, which is a field that is really connected to the cultured meat space because, for example, Mark Post, that launched the first cell-based burger in the world in 2013, or Professor Levenberg, which is the scientific director at Aleph Farms, where Didier is coming from, and many others, such as other professors, really come from the tissue engineering field, where instead of building, as I was building, organs and tissues for the human body, then I got the idea that I was always in my mind to do something good for the environment, and I found a good idea at the beginning that became an invention, the first 3D printed plant-based beef stick that then was including cells or not cells, just plant-based, hybrid, etc. So I thought that finally it was a great opportunity to do something not just useful for biomedicine, but using that field to do something for the environment now that there is a crisis in biodiversity that is really, really serious.
Amazing, amazing. So Iñigo, let's hear from you.
Okay, so Biotech Foods is a Spanish company. We are based in San Sebastian, north of Spain. We funded the company back in 2017, and we are a cultivated meat company, specifically working on land species, focusing today in beef. Okay, that's our first priority. Although we plan to add other meats to our portfolio in the future. I think the main reason why we started is that we were, in a way, get inspired by all the movement that was happening back in 2016, first with the plant-based revolution, okay, in a way, because we have been living with plant-based for a long time, but we were seeing how companies like Impossible Foods and Beyond Meat were trying to make much more attractive products to offer to consumers, trying to in that way avoid or create a more sustainable food production system. And obviously, I think Mark Post in 2013, as Giuseppe said, was also a very inspiring thing for all of the people that has spent some part of their scientific life in understanding tissue engineering, and that was also our case. So this is why we started. Also, I think we have paid society a lot of attention to other things that we use, like energy or transportation, and how the impact of those activities is affecting the planet. But in the last 10, 15 years, we have been being more aware about how the food production also affects us. And we started having more and more information about what is the percentage of greenhouse gases emission from the food production industry. So we really thought that there was an opportunity to, as I said, to have a more balanced protein production system that can meet a growing demand that we have seen in the last decades, and that for sure is not going to stop in the following decades.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so it's funny, both of you mentioned Mark Post. I still remember 2013, 10 years ago. I met him. He actually spoke at my event's first conference. And it was all the rage. I mean, our minds were blown. What? Like, that seminal picture of him holding the petri dish of meat. But of course, the cost was extraordinary. But the possibility was painted us. And through the years, over the past 10 years, there's been a lot of hype around cultured meat. Bill Gates in 2021 said synthetic meat is a must-have to solve climate change, and implored developed countries to really make this mainstream and investors to get in this space. And we've seen those investment dollars flow in, and we've seen technology, more and more companies get involved. But I want to get real on this panel because we got to keep it lively, get people, energized. And we're seeing that hype dissipate a bit recently. And, you know, some people are asking more questions. Can we really do this? Is it ever going to be cost effective? And I wanted to get your perspective about, can we deliver on this promise? What do you think about the current state of the industry? And what will it take to really make cultured meat break through?
Yeah, if I start, then I think this transition to alternative meats in general, or as Bill Gates called, I think in the wrong way, synthetic
He
meat.
He did call it
Very
synthetic.
wrong, because many of the food we eat are synthetic in different ways, including Sayar de Carroca, El Bulli, and Bottura, and many things that we eat are optimized over millennia. So I think this transition is irreversible. I think is similar to the electric cars transition. It's similar to the broadband connection that drove the cloud computing. It's just a matter of when, and now it's only 1% of the meat space market. It's alternative meats, including Impossible, that is an hybrid, which is plant-based mixed with fermentation, or for example, something like Beyond, or like we do normally, which is mostly plant-based with some fermented aromas normally. I think not only is it irreversible, if we go down technological, what is needed, I think it's 4 main things. And you need to break down technological barriers. So there is great people like Andreessen, after doing their breakthrough in internet, they were not able to do cloud computing until the broadband connection was there. Even people in the electric cars were not able to become Tesla until some technological barriers such as range, acceleration, etc. were taken down. In our space, it's taste and texture, one, and second is price. If you check the actual data, nutritional value, so the over-processing and versatility come next. So taste and texture, mostly taste. Okay. Second is price, then it's nutritional value and versatility. If we take down those technological barriers, I think this is becoming a serious transition that is not going to stop.
What do you think? Are we breaking down those barriers?
Well, for sure. I think just what Giuseppe said, that this always has happened, and this is something that has been very well described, for example, by the Gartner cycle. I mean, you always, when you have a new technology, obviously at the beginning the expectations are so high, so we are living through the high because, yeah, everything is yes, a dreamer, okay? We are able to do this in order to improve our life in this world, so obviously everybody is going to buy that, okay? Nobody's going to say, oh, no, I don't want to improve the world. But then, obviously, once, I mean, technology takes time, obviously, to develop. So once you stop making the headlines, obviously others are going to fill that vacuum and are going to start telling about, nothing is happening here. So, I mean, it's very well reported, the value of disillusionment or the value of death, no? Yeah. But I think exactly is where we want to be now, because it's really where the good things are happening. Is when really companies are focusing on developing their work. They are doing a lot of work inside their companies, and they are developing the value chain. And they are much, much closer to deliver the promises that we were doing 6, 7, even 10 years ago, when Mark Post has this brilliant idea of using, obviously, tissue engineering that has been working for a while. So I am really, really positive about what we are doing. In fact, one of the main challenges now that has to do with price is the scalability of this process. Right. Are we able really to produce this at large volumes? Because yes, remember we're talking about food industry, and there is 350 million proteins consumed every year in the world, okay? So really, if you want to make a difference, you have to produce this in really, really large quantities. As of today, at least, we know of 4 or 5 projects already that have broke ground in the world in different countries and are making, or at least trying to make this possible. So I think we are in a much better place than we were several years ago.
And you talked about taste. I actually got to try a cultured meatball. It was delicious, actually. So are we there? Like, what do you feel like is needed to bring taste home from a technological perspective?
So I think that you want to demonstrate just on blind test that something is superior to something, and then that it's scalable, and then the price is right. Yep. So I think you need to be really scientific, not only, it doesn't need to be better for the environment only. Nobody's going to create a big revolution if it's only good for the environment.
Right.
It needs to be better for you, okay? So take electric cars, it needs to be accelerating faster, it needs to be more fun, cost less, etc. if you have a parking with electrical plug. So the trick here is not just take these technological barriers, taste, nutritional values, price, and versatility. It needs to be better for you. What we are missing here that will unlock the regulatory, which we'll probably talk in a second, is that we need demonstration, and these scientific studies, there is a very big gap in long-term studies, microbiome, and, you know, especially nobody is going to accept to, you know, to buy something if it's not clear superiority. So I think you win when it's a clear superiority. It's same in plant-based meat. When in the future you see a cheap fillet, beef fillet that is bad on the pan, it loses water, next to a marbled plant-based piece of meat that can be hybrid, with cell-based or not. And it's the same in scalability with the other products that are not just meat. It can be cheese and it can be milk. So I think it needs to be better for us as humanity, and it needs to be superior. And superiority in this field comes with scientific studies. You need experts, including chefs, saying that I put these products in my menu, not just because I want an alternative, because I think this product is very good. Yeah. And our product now, it's, for example, in a degustation menu of one of the top 100 best steakhouses in the world. Not because we pay this product, they pay us, they buy the product. Awesome. And soon we will be in another restaurant of a chef that has 2 Michelin stars.
You mentioned regulation, and I do want to talk about this. We've seen regulatory regimes emerging in places like Singapore, Israel, the United States, and we're here in Europe, so what's going to be happening in Europe? We have the Green Deal, one of the most visionary, you know, visions around climate change solutions, but without real funding and action plan behind it. I was mentioning to you earlier, I was just in Brussels and talking to some farmers, and they're actually like not talking very positively about this potential disruption, you know, thinking that they're going to be put out of business, and there's some adversarial concerns emerging. So how do we bring cultured meat into European regulation, and how do we foster the transition in an inclusive way with a very, you know, entrenched and active livestock industry here, and dairy industry? You know.
I mean, again, at the very beginning, we were all of the industry to identify what was the 3 main challenges. And for sure, I mean, one was scalability that affects price, and the other one was consumer acceptance, but then the third one is regulatory framework. Obviously, when we talk about in the hype about this, we didn't have any jurisdiction that has approved really, or has even a plan to approve any cultivated meat. And what has happened in these late years is that we have had first Singapore, obviously a small city-state country, but then more recently, 1 year ago now, we have the US with the FDA, that they also make a great effort of putting together the efforts of the FDA and the USDA to work together on this, and they gave the green light to cultivated meat. And then after that, and for me it was even more shocking, because you expect the FDA to do a more analytical way of process, no? But the USDA could be more affected by existing farmers, because obviously they exist in order to protect the existing industry. But they were really fast in also giving the green light and making it possible to launch this cultivated meat in a couple of restaurants in the US, one in the East Coast and the other one in the West Coast. So I think all of this is going to make other jurisdictions to progress and to evolve, and we're going to see others following up. And we have seen Switzerland, the UK, and other places. So we are really, and remember that at the end, the regulatory frameworks of the different countries are not that different from them. At the end, they use more or less the same tools and methodologies in order to prove that something that you're going to eat is safe, okay, for consumption. And they, I always say, obviously take decision based on knowledge, and the more information they have, the more easiest for them to take decisions. And I think probably, yeah, the European Union will follow us, as we have seen in other places. Obviously, European Union also has been very has been pioneering the funding from governments. In fact, I remember when we received European Union funding, it was like, well, you know, look at what European countries are doing, are funding this new. We have to do the same. So it's like US wanted to do the same as we were doing here in Europe. And we have seen not only funding from the European Union, but also from national government here, and even from regional governments. So I am sure that with the Green Deal and the commitment that the European Union has with sustainable food systems, we will be able to go to the same degree as other places.
Do you have anything to build on the regulatory point, or should I jump to?
Yes, in tissue engineering, we started, for example, I think in the 80s with stem cells, and FDA was faster than Europe. Europe is always slower. It's a different system in which you need first to demonstrate that it's safe before. While in the US, it's a little bit more free in general. And Singapore, Middle East are much more prone because they don't have the space, so they prefer to have big stainless steel tanks. So they don't depend on import as other countries that can instead produce themselves.
Yep, absolutely. So regulation is, you know, one aspect of getting this forward. We've also talked about technology. We need to talk about consumers. How are consumers going to accept this technology? What's your experience? What are you seeing? What are the questions being asked? And what do you think blended products are going to mean?
I mean, I have to say that the reality is that all we really want and think that they are going to accept it. And in fact, there is plenty of research studies that tells us that, you know, especially those younger generations are going to support really cultivated meat. So when you ask somebody who is 40 or 35 or younger, they go for it. Normally when you go for older people, normally they get a little bit more, you know, apprehensive on this. But the reality is that if you really do research, most consumers does not know that cultivated meat exists because it's not a product that has hit the market until very, very recently, and in fact is only served in a couple of restaurants, as we said, not only in the US, but even also in Singapore is just one restaurant that where you can try it. So I think still there is a lot of work to be done in that regard, and the main thing is going to be transparency, like any other product, where you have really to communicate, to inform consumers in a good way, and probably realizing that consumers are not valuing in the first place sustainability factors or others. So really we have to focus on what really appreciate on food, that is how it tastes, how I enjoy it, and then if I can pay for it. Yeah. And I think that one is the most important one, and where I see also that cultivated meat can bring a lot of advantages. When you mentioned Bill Gates, it was curious, like when he was talking about, you know, something that can happen is a pandemic coming from zoonotic, and it was like, well, this guy is crazy, why is he saying that? And then the whole world locked up, okay, for months. And another one is this the end of cheap food? Again, has been talking a lot about that, and what we have seen is that we have a lot of inflationary tensions going on, and when we think that we are even easing it, it's not really, it's still there, and we are paying more and more for food. So probably with these new products, and especially cultivated meat, when you do not produce the whole thing, you just go and produce what you need. For sure, at the beginning, you will not have this economies of a scale of something that we have been doing forever and ever, okay? But we think this technology will be able to really improve the access to meat
and we're
to
not
protein.
paying the true cost of traditional
and that's for sure all the externalities there, how that much it costs for the health system, for the environment. We don't have it. So.
Yeah. And I want to hear your perspective on this. And also, who is your target consumer? Is it a vegan? Is it a meat eater? Like, tell me who your customer
Yes.
at the end point
In general, I think the future is not going to be black and white. There is going to be a lot of hybrids. Specifically in NOVAMEAT, we can incorporate functional ingredients. If those are superior and they are the best, it can be cell-based meat. We are very happy to incorporate and create those new products that are excel on different levels, so that vegans, vegetarians, but mostly, obviously, we would like flexitarians to really incorporate those in the diet. I think that this transition needs to happen. We must make it work, because I believe, and I suggest you to check on Netflix The Boundaries of the Planet, the documentaries.
Okay.
If they present different problems, biodiversity collapse and acidification of the oceans, etc. It shows that the most straightforward way to solve biodiversity collapse, climate change, acidification of the ocean, etc., the only way that really puts us inside the boundaries is the transition of alternative proteins. Much more than electric cars, much more than cement, much more than new steel or new other kind of fuels for aviation.
Yeah, and we've already exceeded 6 of our planetary boundaries, so this is an urgent call to action. We are over time, but I just want to get like a 30-second answer to what's next, and I mean literally what's next for your company, for the industry, in the next 18 months.
I mean, what is next is really to see how we are able to scale this and how we are able really to offer this to consumers to buy it in larger quantities and really to say what they want this really to be here or there. Until now, it's been all talking professionals about this, the future of this. Nobody's seeing it really. But now we're going to be able to show to consumers really that are the ones that are going to decide really where cultivated meat, what is the importance of it.
You mentioned there's going to be a little bit of the trough of disillusionment, but we're going to get it to consumers imminently. What about you?
I think there is a cleansing after this bubble of .com, and I think few of the company will survive, and those that survive are the ones that survive after, like an asteroid hits the planet, after the dinosaurs are extinct, and it's because of the business model it makes sense, and because the products are right. So our next 18 months is we are commercializing now already plant-based products, obviously not yet cell-based meat products. We are already commercializing in Spain, in the UK, in Benelux, and hopefully soon we can do that also in Germany, including other countries I cannot disclose. And we are going to show that top chefs are leading this transition, and then people will want to try, and we are B2B company, so we are going into the food service.
We'll see you on Top Chef on Netflix. That's what I want to see happen. So thank you both so much. There's so much more we could have discussed. I invite you to come talk to them during networking, but thanks for your time, and yeah, let's make it happen.
Thank you.
Thanks.